Hi, I'm Matt and welcome to The Mess, which is my other desk. And this episode we are going to be building the Micro Skyhunter. Now for those of you which don't know the story behind this, basically I've always wanted a little Micro Skyhunter, but I refused to pay full price. And then I noticed over on Banggood we had all the parts come up individually and it worked out nigh on half price. So all the parts which you see in front of me, the fuselage, the wings, the tail fin, the booms which are hiding over here, I bought them all for basically half price compared to buying a full kit. So for me, that's happy days. And by the way, I do much prefer buying the kit form rather than the plug-in fly version of any model really. And the reason for that is that it means that I get to make choices, you get to make choices on matters such as which FPV camera to go for, which video transmitter. You can choose which motor, which propeller. You get these options in a kit form. And again, if you're anything like me, you've probably got a box full of spare parts which you can just quickly grab on, and it just makes the model a lot cheaper to own. So there is going to be an underlying factor for this entire build episode, and that one underlying factor is very simple. It's called preparation. Now I've got some notes here which I'd just like to share with you, and you'll see that I've got all the parts out and most things here already pretty much ready to go. Now this is what I've worked out the best way to get models built, because basically when you've got these parts individually in front of you, it's much easier. And I'll show you on the iPad, is that if you see on there, we've got Blenderm all the way along that edge, which then means is that it's much easier doing it when it's a tiny little piece like this compared to trying to put Blenderm tape on there to reinforce the hinge when it's a whole unit. That's just really tricky. But when you've got all the different parts separate, it does make a life an awful lot easier. Okay, so with that said, what have my notes which I've got here? Yeah, the packaging on this was absolutely epic. These different parts turned up in boxes and they had lots of protection around them. So those of you which are thinking, oh, if I bought it in a kit, in a box, it would get to me safer. None of these, well, frankly honest, I had one dent in the wing, and I'll show you that on the iPad. I don't know if you can see that little dent there. That's the only dent, nick, bump, whatever you want to call it, which I've had on all of the surfaces. And those of you which saw the mini Talon when that arrived, that was a bit beaten up, and even with the C1 Chaser as well. What else we got on here? Preparation basically is everything. Now, the first thing which I've done is check that all the parts actually fit together. I know this sounds daft, okay, but actually make sure that the wings will fit on the fuselage, the booms will fit on as well, the tail fin fits, so you then get an idea of how the model is going to go together. Because one thing which it says in some Chinglish manual compared to what actually happens in reality could be two very different things. Now, I've sanded all the all the joints which are going to get glued, so a little scouring pad like that. Everywhere where it's going to get glued, I've been given the parts a little sand, and I'll show you on the iPad. So I don't know if you can see how rough that is on there. And in fact, is that in focus? Kind of. I've just given all the parts a nice little sanding around, and then that means that there's plenty of teeth on the foam so that the glue can do its job and really grip those components together. What else I've been and done? Yeah, sanded all the places where it's going to be glued. Did I sand in there? I'm just checking for my own sanity check. And by the way, that does include all the like the carbon spar, all the other pieces. Yeah, I think I've already done that, but if in doubt, it only takes a few seconds. So I'm just going to give that a quick rub over. And the reason why we're doing that is just purely this. I noticed with this model specifically, it is very shiny and very slippery. So it looks like they used an awful lot of mold release on it to actually get these parts out of the mold. What else have we got on there? Sanded all the glue joints, pre-made the wiring looms. So what I've got here, I'll show you this on the iPad. So I'm going to be using a Hobby King 30 amp ESC. That's already got the connectors on the end as well. I've been and extended the loom out, so I've got an XT60 connector on there. And this little lump here, what I've been and got is 2 servo extensions. And one of these is going to provide power for the VTX, and the other one is going to be the power for the FPV camera, which I'm using a RunCam Owl. Okay, so remember we said about choosing our components? I really like the RunCam Owl Plus. The colours are on it is really vivid. I'm sure you've got your favourite FPV camera. So coming back to the topic, going back to the loom. Also in this loom, so brown and red are negative and positive, but the orange lead in here is actually the video signal, because if we look down here in the loom, is that both of these leads take off and they go to have got positive and negative in them, 12 volts or more. And then the orange lead is actually joined up here in the middle, and we've got our video signal running down here and then back out this side, which then goes to our video transmitter. When we come to our video transmitter, I've already been and made up the wiring loom for that as well. Let me just show you on the iPad. So it's one of those little, what is it? It's a TS something or other. It's a TS5828S. One of the small ones. I've already been and fitted on the antenna. I needed that, and you're going to find out why in just a few moments time. Coming back to the loom, I've got the loom pre-wired up. We do get several wires in here. Red is obvious, so that's positive, and the same for the 2 blacks. They're both negative. We've got a yellow wire, which should also be nice and obvious for you as well, which is the video signal, and then the white one is audio. What I've actually been and done is join this ground, the black, to the white wire as well. So it cuts down on noise, well, mainly, if I'm frankly honest, when I'm doing some editing DVR recordings, that should cut down noise on the recorded DVR version for me. So, and also that then does mean is that if we look closely on this cable, we've got the yellow lead. Let's see if I can get there to focus there a moment. We've got the yellow lead in the middle. That now means is that the video signal is now covered by ground, video signal, ground and ground. And yeah, it'll help keep down interference, especially just on that short space there. And then on the rest of it, we are using twisted cables to help limit interference. What else have we got on here? Oh, I've pre-made the wiring looms. I've re-glued where needed. So there was on the motor mount, which I'll show you when we get to the fuselage, I've put extra glue in the motor mount just for sanity. Also the magnet for the hood, just because the magnets are so good on this model, it actually pulled the glue out. So I've been and used some goop glue to hold that down. A note on glues, you use the glues which make sense to you. For me, goop glue is just... it's my favourite glue. I've got a whole box of glues down there, and I will be using goop glue and actually a little bit of hot glue for this build. Now, I don't normally like using the hot glue for builds, but in this instance, because of the complicated fin and just for time, I'm going to be using hot glue to hold the fin into place so I can get the booms on, so that when I glue the booms then to the wing, where I will use goop glue and then pins to hold it, it does then mean that the main joint here, the 2 big ones which then hold the tail booms and the elevator fin on, I will use goop glue for that, and then that can then go and set overnight. Cool beans. What was else I've got on there? Re-glued when needed. Also the tray in the fuselage is loose, so I'll glue that up later. But actually it's handy at the moment it being loose, because it means I can get the ESC in there. Oh yeah, I've already spent some time and worked on this model in a couple of places. One of them is in the FPV camera. So I've seen so many people with this model and they've just left this front piece naked and you've got a bit of plywood underneath there. I really did not like that. So what I've been and done is that I've been and done a good as job as I possibly could do to get that camera mounted in and sat in, so we get this little black lid on the front, so she does retain some of her good looks. So yeah, that took me a while. Oh, a little tip for you. What I did was that I put 2 screws in the bottom, pushed the lid down, and then that gave me a really good indication of where I needed to start cutting. And then I just went carefully and carefully and carefully, and about 10 minutes later, it was all bedded in and happy days. So that's the camera. Also, when it comes to the fuselage, I have been, and I got some pieces of carbon here, which I'll mention in a moment. I have been and done a bit of extra work. I've got some glass reinforced tape underneath this, and then I've been and covered that with some white sellotape to make it look a little bit pretty. I didn't pay like the £1 or £2 extra for a plastic bottom on there. I'm just being tight, to be honest, so I'd rather use some glass reinforced tape, and I've put some white packaging tape underneath, and it looks pretty good, and it means we'll save the bottom from knocks and bumps. I've also got a handful of carbon fibre in my hand. I'll show you this on the iPad. That's the carbon fibre. It's 4mm by 1mm, I think, carbon fibre, and that brings us nicely onto the wings. I have been and sanded, cut and sanded the carbon fibre. I've also been and sanded the main spar, which goes in the middle too. I've sanded the 2 joints where these go together. I've also been and put Blenderm tape. You see that tape there, and I've got a separate video on that. And if you check my YouTube channel, I'll show you how the right way of setting that. Also, I've put some clear sellotape all the way along the leading edge. Just thinking when you're landing, it's going to keep that leading edge nicer for longer. And also, frankly speaking, these wings are not very thick, so I don't think it's going to hold up to big knocks and bumps. So I felt in this model, I would put some sellotape along the front edge. I've done the same on the opposite wing, but also you'll see that I've been and recessed a hole here. Now I've got a separate video on this to show you. And this is where our video transmitter is going to go in and sit down. I do have 2 pieces of carbon fibre either side, and you will notice, let me point this out for you, you will notice there's a hole there and a hole there. And the reason for that is that I always use a mechanical fixing for the video transmitter for 2 reasons basically. The first reason is safety. I'll be using a big cable tie, which is, by the way, a reusable cable tie. Okay, so a big amount of surface area to hold that down. Okay, so instead of using Velcro or taping it down or something like that, is a nice big mechanical fixing to go over the top of that. And also, because it's a reusable cable tie, it then does mean that we can get access to the video transmitter just in case we need to change the channels, because one of our fellow pilots on the flight line cannot use the same, cannot get to his because he's either been glued or sellotaped or welded his in to his model. So yeah, I've got a separate video to show you how to dig out holes like that in your model. It is super, super quick to do. Also, I've dug out the hole in there as well for the cable to go down and out underneath, and then I'll be using a bit of tape underneath for that too. When it comes to the wings, sorry, that's been a lot of talking there. Let's change the pace slightly. When it comes to the wings, is that there's a lot of carbon in this wing. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on the iPad. All that black stuff is carbon, okay? And the thing is the problem is that you've got plenty of carbon in the wing, but there's only 1 carbon spar. Now that bit made me feel a little bit uncomfortable. So in my hand, I do have several pieces of carbon fibre, and that one goes in there, which crosses the 2 spars which go into the wing. So that one goes in there. I've got a shorter piece further down the wing, and I've got a bigger piece up in front of the wing as well, up there. So yeah, call me paranoid, but there will be 3 additional pieces of carbon fibre strip going across my wing. Ultimately, your model's your model, this model's my model, and I will put carbon fibre, probably too much carbon fibre, in my models. So, right, what else have we got on here? Cut the hole for the VTX, carbon spar, that's been taken out, I've sanded that with a sanding pad. We will get building now in a moment, so I'm going to go and get the hot glue gun on. By the way, this hot glue gun, I'll show you it on the iPad, absolutely brilliant, cost me £4, runs off a 3S battery, absolutely amazing. It uses the smallest 7.1, 7.2 glue sticks. I wouldn't be without it, in short. It cost £4, absolute bargain. I'll put a link to that in the video description for you. It's absolutely amazing. Right, carbon spars, propeller. I've been and balanced the motor. Let me get this out and I'll show you. I will be using put this on the iPad for you. Let's make her focused. Thank you. It's an DYS SE2205. 2300 kV. I'm only going to be running her on a 6x4 prop to begin with. I may change that to a 6x4 tri-blade or a 50-50 tri-blade. I don't know yet, but for right now it was very easy just to quickly balance up this propeller, and that's what I'm going to be using to begin with. As far as the motor mount goes, it's a straightforward cross mount. I have put little dabs of thread lock, blue thread lock on those as well. And I do have the little bag of screws over there in the fuselage ready to go. What else we got on the list? We're getting there. Now, can you see the point about preparation? All these parts are here ready to go, and this build's going to go pretty quickly, except for the one point, which is the booms. I will be using goop glue for that, and it's not an instant glue like hot glue, so it's going to take a while for that to set. And I've been and cleared some desk space over there. So once I've got that set, I will be using pins to hold it still. I'll pick her up, sit her on the desk, and then it can stay there untouched until tomorrow when the glue will be set. What else we got on here? Propeller balanced, yep. Tape on the bottom we covered as well. And got all the rods ready, I think. Oh, and all the tools ready. I've got a craft knife to hand. I've got a small Phillips, a big Phillips. Oh, I've also got some, I bought shed loads of these little propellers for quads ages ago. And you'll see me here destroying it. And the reason being is that they make absolutely fantastic glue spreaders. So yeah, I won't be using 50-40 props for pretty, well, actually only the Chuck Glider uses them, so I won't be getting through that many, and I've got loads of these, so I use them as glue spreaders. Right, preparation is everything, okay, and I've worked out a plan of attack which is very simple. I'm going to go for the awkward pieces first, which are the servos, so I'm going to get the two servos in the wing, the servo in the tail fin, then with the tail fin, I'm going to get that attached to the booms, let that set off. Then while that's setting, or once it's cooled down and ready to go, I will then be focusing upon the wing, get all the carbon in the wing, get that glued up, everything else, blah, blah, blah. Then I will then use goop to attach the booms to the wing. Then I'm going to put that over there and set it down. And then after that, we're then going to go and work on the fuselage. So that's the plan of attack. What happens from here, nobody knows. So let's go and get that one out of the way. Right. So with that said, we need to focus on the servos first. Oh, a little note for you. I'll show you this on the camera. Sorry, on the iPad. When it comes to the rudder servo, notice how short that control horn, or the servo horn, is compared to that one. See, it's much shorter. Okay, and the reason why it's so much shorter is because the plastic cover for the servo was hitting it. So that servo horn was hitting the top of this plastic cover. And that goes back to my previous point, is do fit all these parts together, because then having to get back in the tail fin with the model upside down, trying to unscrew it and stuff, oh, pain in the ass. All for the sake of popping that in there, putting the actual little control horn on there, and then putting it down and going, oh, that hits. You know? It's much easier to do it in a small little compact package like this, instead of it all being out in the model. I'm sure you get my point. Right, so with that said, we need to get this one glued in. I have been in there and scuffed around in there. One thing which I haven't done is giving these servos a little bit of a scuff. I'm only going to give them a light scuff, because that's all it really needs, to be honest. Just needs just a slight key on there so that the glue can stick to it. So we need to eye this one up. I'm going to pop that in there. Let's go and get the glue. Are we hot enough? Oh yeah. Right. The other thing which I noticed, I don't know how much you're going to be able to see on the iPad. Where do I need to be? I need to be about there. Okay. Obviously my hands are going to be in the way. No apologies. I really want to get this model built now and get it flying. What I did notice with the elevator servo is that it is a bit loose. So I will be using a fair amount of gob for this servo to hold it in place. So don't be horrified if you see me sticking a load of glue in this one, because in short, it needs it. Now, also note, preparation being everything, and that phrase will probably catch me out in a minute, is that I do have some glue sticks over there on the side. So there's nothing quite like starting a build and then realizing, oh, I need a screwdriver, I need a knife, I need a etc, etc. I've done my best for a bit of pre-planning to make sure that I've got everything in place. Now I can see that I've been in use too much glue and it's all oozed out the front or the back. So I'm just going to quickly get in there with a craft knife and get that out of the way. And I know it's a naughty habit, it's my desk if I want to rub glue in it. That's the way it is. Right, let's get that out. Brilliant. I think I'm just going to put a little dab in there because I'm really paranoid. Also, what I'm now going to go and do is connect up the control horn. The servo was centered as well. Oh, I forgot to mention that. All the servos were centered. I've already been and done that and put all the control horns on as well. I did actually pay a couple of quid and bought the suggested servos for the model. So, I don't know, it cost me a couple of quid. I really wasn't that bothered about it, to be honest. Now, well, because I'd saved so much money on the rest of the kit, I was like, well, really? Is that all? So, right, I'm just going to dry fit that on there just to see what it's going to come out like. Now, I am actually going to use a bit of hot glue on this, but before I do that, I'm just going to sand up that edge there, because I had intended to go and use goop glue for this, but because I've been and worked out to be able to get the tail booms together and then get it on the wing, it would take absolutely ages, and the chances of that getting knocked in the office during the day was kind of high. I am going to use hot glue, and I don't like normally using hot glue on models, but in this case, needs must. So I've sanded that up. Let's get a nice rough edge on the back of there, and I'll show you what I'm doing. Just giving it a quick rub round with the sanding pad. Now do note this servo lead is rather long. Right now, I'm going to ignore that. I don't care. Okay, that's the easiest way for me to handle this, because later on, then I'll be able to come up, wind it back in, and then get a really super tight fix on there. That is a very simple job to do on the back with a piece of sellotape. That will only take 2 minutes tops, something like that. So that's in, and that's looking spot on actually for the elevator thing. And again, you'll find out that when we go and take her up for a maiden in a later episode. So let's get that servo lead tucked in there. Brilliant. So let's go and get ourselves a bit of glue on the bottom. Do that along that back edge, up around there. Dead simple. Brilliant. And don't skip putting this cover on, because that tail servo is likely to get a slap in every time you land. So yeah, don't skip over that. And I think I may even come back later. So there it is glued in, like so. I may, in fact, I can tell you, I guarantee you, I'm going to come back in and I will put some tape, glass reinforced tape on top of that, because that's going to take how many whacks? Every time you fly it, every time you land it, it's going to take a good whack. So that's that there. That's that piece done. Next one, which we said was we were sticking with the servos, which means that we need to do the servos in the wing, which is that one's the wrong way round again. Oh no, is that the right way round? Wrong way round. I'm just eyeing this one up. I don't know if you can see if I did put that. I'm just gonna push that servo in there, Amo. And then I'm going to go, I thought I'd already done this. Bad, Matt. There you go. I said this would catch me out. You put that on there. It'll be fine. I'll be able to trim it out. That'll be all right. And these are easy enough to change. Right. Let's get that off there. Oh, and I also went through and did up those screws as well. Where is the sanding pad? Just going to give that a scuff either side. And trying to scuff inside of give you a little tip here. Trying to scuff inside of a recess like this one, I'll show you this on the iPad, is very difficult. So instead, just get your craft knife in and then give it a good scrape round. Okay, no, don't worry, nobody's ever going to see that. Once it's in there. Nobody's going to see that piece, so it doesn't matter if it's scraped up. Well, it does matter that it's been scraped and been made into a rough surface, because then it means that your servo is going to stay in and your model's not going to fall out of the air because your servo wasn't still glued in, if that makes any sense at all. Let's get that in there. Let's take a bit on there, bit on there. Brilliant. Probably too much hot glue. There we go. Any excess glue, I'm just wiping off. Rub that on the desk. Brilliant. That's in there nicely now. Now, we do need to get that servo extension lead, and all I'm going to do, there you go, this has been getting caught out with stuff. Just going to use a bit of tape just to hold that servo lead in place for now. So it's just there. Too much tape. Just need a tiny bit just to hold it in place, and I will come back and sort that out later once the whole wing is on. Okay, but the main thing is it's down there, it's out the way. Okay, right, so that's that in there. Now I want to do the opposite side, so I'm going to grab the other servo. Again, just present her up. That's fine. Line that across. Let's go, and again, just to make the point, I'm going to get in the servo recessed just with the craft knife. I'm just doing little squares, scuffing the sides as well. Jobs are good in. Get the, and apologies, I thought I did the servos. My bad. There we go. Right, double glue there, double glue down the bottom, on the back. Drop it. Bit of glue down the back. Brilliant. And let's get that one sat in. There we go. And if your fingers are temperature sensitive, you could just try licking your finger and then wiping the glue off. To be honest, that glue is not that hot, so for hot glue, it's alright. Let's just get that in there, like so. Again, just needs to be held roughly in place, only temporarily. Now I've got hot glue snot everywhere. We'll get that out of the way, and those are fine. Brilliant. Right, servos are in. Next stage is to, well, I'll tell you what, the next real stage is now is that I need to get this elevator fin stuck in to the tail boom. So I've already been in there and scuffed this up. I am just going to quickly check to make sure that that fits in there nicely, which it does. I will also go and check the other boom. Make sure that fits in nicely, which it does. Happy days. And I'm not going to worry about connecting the servo up just yet. I'm just going to get in there, give it a nice little dose of glue. Brilliant. I'm going to get that in there. And I'm just going to hold it still while it sets. And remember, foam is an insulator. So in other words, it keeps the heat in the glue for like, it's just like working with foam board. Is that, excuse me, it does keep that heat in there for quite a while. Now, if you're using a different, maybe a different glue, what you can get is some of these dress pins, and I hope that's coming out on the iPad because I'm here holding the other one. And then what you can then do is just use those dress pins just to hold the joints together And I'll show you this in a moment once I've put some pins in there myself. Let's get that one in there as well. Right, brilliant. There we go, and I'll show you on the iPad. Look, can you see how I've got those pins in there? And they're going down, one on this angle, one on that angle. So it's like a dovetail woodworking joint, is that it's now clamping that piece into place. Okay, so I can now move it around and not worry about it too much. Right, next one, we need a bit of glue in this side. There's a bit of hot glue in there. Excellent. Probably put too much in it. Yeah, I would say I put too much in that. But I'm sure we'll get over it. And I'm just going to hold that still. Try and hold it as straight as I can. Again, last chance before. Just make sure those fins are vertical. Kind of look vertical to me, and again I'm just pausing here because that glue needs to set. Brilliant. And then just because I'm paranoid, I'm going to stick a couple of pins in there just in case I knock it while it's still very much a virgin joint down there, for the sake of 2 moments. There we go, and I'll just pop one in on the opposite side, like so. Right, I'm going to lay that on the floor out of the way. Right, that's the tail boom done. Next piece is the wings, which is the end of the hot glue. So I'm going to turn that off. Right, wings. First thing which I'm going to go and do is glue the main spar in. I do also need to know where the middle of this wing is. So, and the reason why I need to know where the middle of this wing is, I'm just going to score that with a screwdriver, is because I'm going to get some goop glue on this, and then it means I don't put too much goop glue on it to all the way out the shaft, because I'll need to do that again in a moment. Right. Let's get that on there. Brilliant. Now, obviously, I should really be telling you to be wearing rubber gloves, because this stuff isn't very nice stuff, to be honest. But bloomin' heck, then it half glue stuff together. So I'm giving that a really good coating with some goop. Happy days. And I'm just going to wipe the excess in the table. I can sand that off the table later. Right, so I'm going to get that in there, and then I'm going to twist that in all the way through. And let me just show you on the iPad. And again, I've got to be quick. I'm just twisting that in as I go into the model, okay? Into the shaft. In there, come on. Right, that's far enough. Brilliant. I've got a spare bit of goop glue, so I'm just going to pop that on the end rather than wasting it. Again with the goop, going to get that on there, get this joint covered. Again, any excess I can pick off in a moment. Let's get that set on there, and again I'm going to get some goop glue on this shaft as well, or on the carbon spar should I say. Cool, probably use too much goop. And frankly speaking, I'd rather use too much goop glue rather than too little, because you can't add or easily add goop or glue to a joint afterwards. So, pull that servo lead out of the way. Let's get that in there. Again, really is starting to get stiff in there now. Just rubbing that down. Cool beans. We're getting near the end now. Brilliant. Right, let's go and get that other servo lead out of the way. That's going to be a good joint. Brilliant. Okay. So I do have a bit of excess goop glue there. It's not the end of the world. Just pushing those joints together. I can see some goops come out the top, which is always a good sign. I am just going to rub that over with my finger. I do have quite a bit left over, but I'll be needing that in a moment. Okay, right. Let me just quickly show you on the iPad. So that's what I've been and ended up with. Nice overspill of goop glue in the middle, which I had. Still got some on my finger there. And the tops come out really nicely too. So what I'm now going to go and do is just dump that glue in the middle for now. Those dress pins, absolutely invaluable. So what I'm going to do with those pins, again, you saw me dovetail that tail fin a minute ago. I'm now dovetailing the joint together to make sure it stays in one piece. Now I'm not going to be attaching this to the main fuselage until tomorrow. Okay, and the reason for that is very simple. Is because this goop glue really does need to set overnight. And I'm going to stick one in that way. And you'll notice I'm putting the pins on the underside so that nobody actually sees them, or the pinholes afterwards. Okay, so I'm just going to really push that together. Ace. Right, that leaves us with the next task, which is carbon fiber spars, which you won't get in your kit because I've bought these carbon fiber spars by myself. There's a website called easycomposites.co.uk, and it's about £3. Well, less than that actually. That's way up front. About £2.50 or something like that a meter. Way cheaper than buying on eBay or anywhere else like that. In fact, you can't even get the strips on Banggood, for example. So, yeah, really good stuff. I use it loads, as you can see. So I've already been and cut the recesses out for these spars. And I am just going to push this down into the wing. Now, the downside for the glue, it is very, very sticky. And we need to make sure that goes in there well. Like so. I'm just going to use the back of the craft knife. And again, I've already been and test fitted all these carbon spars, which are all these additional carbon spars. So I know that they fit, and they do fit well. So I'm then going to clean up that joint. Again, I've just got some excess. I'm just going to wipe it on the desk. The desk in this instant doesn't matter. I can clear that up at any point in time. But the model, that's what I need to focus my attention upon. Cool. Do that over the desk rather in the carpet. Right, that's that done. Brilliant. Top's looking good. Happy days. Right. Next one is I now have a spar. I'll tuck those leads over there for now. Right, stay. Now I have another one which goes along the main cross beam. Again, it seems kind of daft to me. They went to the effort to put chunks of carbon fibre in it, but there was just no like strengthening in the middle. So I'm putting my own in, which I now know will hold it still and it's not going to go anywhere. And by the way, you really should be using this goop glue in a well ventilated area, because it does absolutely reek. And like I said, I know that these pieces will fit in here. I've already been and test fitted them in. It's just now just a case of persuading them that they really do want to live in there. And let's go and get that in, using the back of the knife to push that in. Push that in as well. And I can tell you that I pushed one of those pins too far through. It just stabbed me fingers. Brilliant. And those of you which may be thinking, Matt, why are you using goop glue? Why don't you use some Yoo-Hoo Pour or some Yoo-Hoo Power or some CA or whatever glue? Frankly, I feel that goop glue is the best, but it is £10 a tube. It does absolutely reek. But but it's proven to be absolutely fantastic to me. So that is the reason why I'm using it, and it's also very easy to get off your hands as well. So I'm just rubbing my fingers together, and because it's quite a rubberized glue, it just rubs off. So happy days. Unlike Yoo-Hoo Pour, which takes a while to go off. And CA, and come on, how many of you out there watching this episode have been and glued yourself to a desk or to a pen or picked something up and then realised it was stuck to your fingers because you got a bit of CA glue stuck on it? Come on, we've all been and done it. Right, bit more glue on there. Again, there's no way I'm not going to get this on my fingers, so I'm just going to get that on there. I've done that too. Last piece now. Get that in there. Poke it on there. Right. I'm going to get the lid on the glue. Just going to put my hands underneath to support it while I'm pushing down. Which that's stuck in there now. Just using my finger just to clean and to seal the joint up. Stick that on the end of the desk. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Okay, let's quickly review where we are. Could do with squeezing together just a touch more. Oh, actually that is a really good seal. Right, so let me just quickly show you the top center area. That's come out really, really well. There's the pin which just got me a minute ago, and that goop glue. Look, it's already started to set. Okay, and I've got it on my fingers, but you just rub your hands together and it rubs back off again. And then underneath is the carbon spar at the top, extra spar which is then along with the two big spars which go all the way across, and then down here at the bottom, this does feel to me like the weakness area, and I've just been and put an extra carbon spar across there. You won't get those pieces in your kit. Okay, I've paid, I've used like £3 worth tops in like the, well, not even half a metre, so 50 centimetres worth. £1.50, something like that's worth tops of carbon fibres gone in here. Did it make a difference? I feel that it has. Remember, this is my model. I wasn't sent to me. It wasn't sent to me as a model for review. I've bought these parts out of my own cash because I saw the parts come up and they were half price. I thought that was happy days. Anyway, I'm sure you've heard me talk about that for a while. Right, next piece. We need to get this onto here. Right, and I need to make sure we get this the right way round. Okay, so aha, that's been and found its home position. That's happy days. Now I do need some pins for this. I know that I'll need some pins for this, so I've got some spare pins there. Got those. In fact, I'm not going to put them in the tub. I'm going to put them in the lid so they're easier to grab. And my plan of attack for this is to goop glue that on top of here. Use goop glue for that, and then go and get it set in. Now, that elevator fin should be stuck in there now. And again, the reason why I used hot glue for that, personally I would have liked to have used goop glue for that, but I'm just interested in speed here for this piece, because I would have, for the elevator fin, I would have glued that and then left it overnight and then gone and done this, which then needs to get left for a day as well. So it would have dragged the build on too far. And I want to be flying by Friday. This thing needs to be in the sky. There's no point having a model if you're not going to fly it, in my head. And as many of you know, I'd rather be flying than on what I would be building. So let's go and get that out there. But when I do build, this is the reason why it takes me a while to build, is because I'll end up with a model looking like that with a load of pins and stuff in it. Just to ensure that the seam is absolutely fantastic. Right. So with that said, let's get some goop glue out again. Now, I will not be putting goop glue on the pins on here. And the reason for that, I need those pins so we can find home on the fuselage itself. So I will be going careful of those pins not to get glue around that. Let's give them a good old dose. I think I've put too much that side. Just clean that up. Again, a spare bit of glue. Just going to stuff that on there. And you'll see what I'm doing here with the lid of the glue. I'm using that to get us a nice thin layer on the foam. And then, of course, this works on EPP glue foam as well. It works really well on EPP. Really, like ridiculously well. To the point the foam will break before the glue breaks. It's that good. Right, need to hold that one out of the way. This needs to come forwards. Okay, we were about there, weren't we? That one's in there. No apologies for my fat head being in the way. We need to make sure this goes down well. So, because I can't stand there all night and hold this model still, instead, these little pins can stay here all night and hold the model still for me, or hold the model still for you. So yes, she is going to get a load of pins in her, because it's all just, again, I'm dovetailing them in there. I am applying continuous pressure. That's not really dovetail, is it, Matt? Again, let's get one in the nose as well. Right, there's that side sorted. Now onto this side. And again, I'm going a little bit careful because I know that I'm pushing down on the wing here. So let me go. Just going to get that servo lead in. Right. Yeah, that one. I'm just going to do this by hand. And again, let me just show you. And again, I'm trying not to screw up the build, but also show you just a couple of tips as we go along as well. So I'm just poking those pins in. And by the way, how many YouTube videos have you seen where people are just stuffing hot glue on it? Yeah. I don't like that idea, especially for such an important junction, which is where the whole rear of the model attaches to the fuselage, or the body of the wing, or you know what I mean. Just, yeah, I'd hate for a model to fall out of the sky because of my own stupidity. There's a guy on YouTube called 7Demo7, and he said that once, and it's always stayed with me. I think every build video which I've done so far on YouTube, oh, got to go careful there, there's cables and then come that side. Every build video which I've done on YouTube, I've always noted that I would hate for a model to fall out of the sky because of my own stupidity. Okay, keep that one in the back of your mind. So, right, there is the wings. They're looking good. Now I'm going to go and leave this upside down on the other desk, which then means that we can move on to the fuselage. Brilliant. That's that sat on the desk. Right, that moves us on to the fuselage. Now, like I said, preparation is everything. Now, I really don't like those battery restraints, so I won't be using them. Instead, what I've done is been and prepared some Velcro, and I'll show you this on the iPad. So there is one piece of Velcro which I've been stuck in that bottom drawer. And remember I said about something which was not glued in there very well? It's that little drawer, or that little mezzanine or platform in there is not glued in at all. Also, last night after these parts arrived, I was waiting for the elevator fin. I've also been and put some CA glue in each of the corners as well, just out of paranoia. And then down in the motor mount, you won't be able to see this on the camera, but down there, you'll have to take my word for it, I've been and put extra goop glue all the way up around. I don't know how well that's coming out. All the way around in that motor mount. Also here, I don't know if you can see that just in there as well. I've put goop glue down on that little edge where this screw goes in and the bolt goes in, and I've done the same down that side as well. And then in here on the motor mount, in each of the corners, they've all had a little bit of goop glue as well. Probably not needed, okay? Paranoid. That's where if we got put a propeller on there, or we have a bad landing, and then we knock the propeller out and it's no longer balanced, where do you think all that vibration is going to go? Straight into that motor mount. Anyway, right, I've been in pre-cut some sticky back Velcro, so I'm going to go and get that stuck in there now. So I need to pull that mezzanine back, and this may sound daft to you, but I'm starting at the front and going backwards. And then that way, it means that I know that I got a good joint at the front, which everybody else sees, and we end up with a finished article like that. Happy days. I also do have another bit of Velcro as well. Can you see this on the camera? Whereabouts are we? Yeah, kind of back there. And need to make sure I get this the right way round. Yeah, that way round. Again, I pre-cut this. You heard me. I'm sure you picked up the tone of today's build episode, which is preparation is absolutely everything. So I've just been to stuck that in there. I will admit that's not in there very straight, but I tell you what, me and you, we'll keep that on a secret. Nobody needs to know about that one. Right, now we're getting to the exciting stuff. Right, motor. Motor needs to go in. We also need to connect up the ESC. Which way am I going to do this? I'm going to put the motor in first and then do the ESC afterwards. Okay, so on the micro Skyhunter, we've got a little hole there for our motor leads. Just going to dangle those in there. Oh, also, what I did notice, and you'll find this on yours as well, is that I did have to trim some of the foam off the side. Okay, here. Don't panic if you need to do that as well. Okay, that's what I had to do on mine. I just remembered that when I put that motor mount in. Also, with your fuselage, you will get a bag of screws. And those screws I was wondering, what are those screws for? And those screws are to hold the motor so you can screw your motor mount in. Didn't twig me to afterwards, like, well, where am I going to screw those in? So, yeah, that's what they're for. They're for to hold the motor in. Sounds daft, but I did wonder, what are they for? But anyway, right, let's go and get that screw in there. And it's always fun trying to put screws in next to a motor because the screw always wants to go on and stick itself to the motor. So apologies for not doing this one on this iPad. These things are a right little faff. And yes, I probably should have put a really strong magnet on my screwdriver and then that would have held it still, but maybe you'll put that on your preparation list. Go and grab a magnet from underneath the desk and then stick that in. And stick that to the screwdriver so that your screws don't stick to the motor and not to the model. Cool. Ah, you don't want to fit, do you? Right, I'll come back to you in a moment. I'm having an issue. Ooh, naughty little thing. It's not a biggie. Basically, the holes are slightly off compared to the motor mount which I'm using to the holes which we've got in the wooden bracket at the back. So, not the end of the world. Because what I'll do, I'm just going to tighten these screws up. I've got the wrong screwdriver. Apologies, I'm having to just quickly dart down underneath the camera. Aha! It's alright, very similar screwdriver. And grab the smaller one. Let's get one in. And get two in. And I don't know how long this episode is now, but at least you get to see what's involved in a build of a micro Skyhunter. It's also dab handy having most of the tools right next to the desk. So the issue which I've got is the holes in the motor mount are slightly off. So I'm just going to quickly drill that out. That's better. That'll do it, he says. Let's go and put the screws on there. Now you may be wondering why I've not been to put any thread lock or CA on the actual screws themselves, and that's for a very simple reason, is that chances are I'm going to be changing the motor on this one quite soon. It's going to be my choice of motor for the Maiden because I know it's going to have shitloads of frost in it. There's no other terms for that other than shitloads of frost. But it's going to have loads of thrust in it. And come on, screw. In fact, let me show you that little tip. I'm sure you've had an old motor where you've had which maybe you've burnt out or done something bad to it, and then before you throw it away you always go and save the magnets. So I've got a load of motor magnets. I'll just show you there. There's my stash, and well, part of one of the stashes of motor magnets. I've just pulled one off. I'll stick that on the screwdriver. Try and find the screw or whatever I did with it. It's now gone AWOL. Right, that's going to be hilarious. I'm sure you've seen it roll off on my desk, and I've not. Right. So there you go. If your screwdriver is not very magnetic, stick a magnet on it, and ta-da! It will stay still. So when I go and stuff that in there now, it will bite. Brilliant. And then I'll swap over to the other screwdriver, and then do that one up. Nice and tightly. So I'm just going to quickly just go round and check. Yeah, they're all done up nice and tidy now. Absolutely brilliant. Oh yeah, I didn't need those propellers in the end. So, right. Let me just quickly show you. There you go. All done up nice and tightly. Normally, I would put some CA or some thread lock on those screws, and yes, even in wood as well. In fact, CA and thread lock work really, really well in wood too, because they're both glues. But like I said, chances are I will change this motor over to a bigger one and upgrade this to a 4S rather than just being 3S. So yeah, it's a later plan for this model, but hey, look, we need to get the Maiden done. Right. Naughty Matt, the one thing which I haven't done is for the bottom of the ESC. So basically the ESC is just a lump of aluminium with some FETs on the back. So we don't want this moving around willy-nilly in the model. And I did put a bit of Velcro in the bottom, ready for this. But I didn't put a bit of Velcro on the back of the ESC. Right. So let's get that done. Turn that over, eye it up. So it's about there, again, so you can see what's going on. Yeah, it's about there. Just going to rip the side of that. Now, if you're wondering where did I get the Velcro from, my honest answer is I've bought Velcro from lots and lots of different places. And the thing is the best stuff I found on Amazon. It's called Super Sticky Back Hook and Loop Strips. I'll put a link to it in the video description. Bloody fantastic stuff. I bought some other stuff. It was utter shite. Anyway, careful of the language, Matt. Sorry. But it was absolute rubbish. So anyway, let's get that stuck on there. That's nice and well stuck. So this is a bit of an awkward one because we want to get, I'll show you on the iPad, we want to get the ESC down like that with the leads on the back. but then we also want to get this up around the back as well. And we need to keep these leads away from those leads as much as we can, because that's like the noisy end and that's the quieter end, if that makes any sense. Right, this is going to be fun, so I'm just going to pull that tray forwards, and apologies if you can't see this. It is going to be a bit of a faff trying to get this in here, but once it's in there, I shouldn't have any reason to have it out anytime soon. Well, I may need to upgrade it to a 40 amp ESC later, but for now, it is what it is. Let's pull that up. Brilliant. Now I need to go and get those cables plugged in. And you know with ESCs, don't you, that it doesn't really matter which ones you put it in, because you got a 50-50 chance of getting it right or getting it wrong. So yeah, I'm just going to stuff those in there. Go on, girl. Thank you. Lovely tight fit on that one. They're fine. And I can see a bit of the gold underneath where I've obviously cut the... Yeah, that'll be fine. Come on. And I do need to get that ESC to move back a little bit more. What a faff. Not very big in here. Right. Sit there, girl. Thank you. Bend those leads around. So that's what we've been and ended up with. Like so. And now I can push that mezzanine backwards. We do need to pull. Great. I've got to fit that down there somewhere now, because I'd like it to. I'd like for it to. Well, actually, no, it'll be fine this end. It don't make that much difference. Right, so I've now got that lead coming forwards, and I'll just push that down there for now for the receiver. We've got the power lead at the front for the battery, which has got plenty of length on it, so it can go now. The battery can go either way around. I'll show you on the camera. It can go either way around in the model. There's plenty of length in that lead. We've got one lead which needs to go backwards, which I will use fiddly fiddly. So one lead which is going to go backwards, and that will be for the video transmitter. So I can now plug in this the right way round. Yep, like so. So that's now the right way round. Again, I know it's the right way around because I did the wiring on that myself, and then that will now go along when we put the wing on. Once that glue's been set, that will then go along the wing up to the VTX, and then happy days. That's that sorted. We've got the RunCam Owl, which, to be honest, still does need a little bit of work. I do need to swap this connector over to. At the moment, when it gets supplied, it comes with two. I'll just show you on the iPad. Okay, so it does come supplied with the power and the video separate. I will get a servo connector. In fact, one just like that. Make it to a single unit, so that it's very easy then for me on the flight line to undo this from the hood, because that is a bit stiff to say the least, to get that in there, and then I can then tuck that in there and get our lid on, and that is happy days. And that is basically as far as I can go with this build this evening. So to quickly recap, even despite my best what should I say, my best attempts of trying to be prepared, there was a few instances where that caught me out, but I did have the majority of the things available to me on the desk. So I had a hot glue gun, I had tools literally just a hand away from me, just kneel down and then grab them off the floor, just go and grab them if I needed them. Like I'd picked up the wrong screwdriver, the other one was just down there in a box. So I had pins available to me, I had tape available to me, I pre-prepared the looms, everything else. And frankly speaking, let me just go and pop the receiver in. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to be doing with the receiver on this one. That has been bugging me, but for right now, it'll probably end up getting poked out the side one going one direction and the other one going vertical in the model. But yeah, all I need to do now is wait for that to set, which will take overnight. As far as attaching those wings to the model, dirt simple. Down, 2 screws. Oh yeah, and of course plug in the servo connectors. Dead simple. Just make sure the servo movements work right on the model. I do need to tweak the settings on the RunCam Owl, but there we go. And look, I'll show you this on the iPad. Look, I am so happy that I spent the extra time to make that a seamless fit, because how many videos have you seen on YouTube of the micro Skyhunter, and nobody's actually spent the time to actually do a nice little recess job like that with their model, and I really like it. Oh, and if I'm that way inclined, let me show you actually. I was trying to work out this one earlier, and I didn't practically want to go any deeper on the nose. So what I may do at a later date, and I'll show you this on the iPad, which I think the iPad's just been and died, bless it. I'll show you on the main camera, is that if I made another little platform, I could get the RunCam to sit up there out of the way. And now I don't know how I'm going to do that yet, but that's my plan for later. I know that's a bloody good FPV camera. That is a fantastic HD recording camera. And yeah, if I could get that mounted up there out of the way, that would be absolutely amazing. Then you'll be able to get some full HD footage for some onboard flights with the mini Skyhunter. So yeah, happy days from here. I am actually going to wrap this episode up. Like I said, what's left is all child's play. I will neaten it up, and before the maiden of this model, I will quickly just go over the bits and bobs which I've done the next day. But yeah, all straightforwards. And just take away that one thing which I mentioned right back at the beginning, preparation. This went pretty uneventfully. There was no hidden surprises, there were no shocks. I had all the parts already prepared. I spent the time. I'd already got the servos centered. And there's going to be like 0 edits in this episode. However long it took. In fact, I'm going to have a look on the camera. Yeah, don't actually say, but I'll leave that in. That's as long as it took to get this ready, and if needs must, maybe half an hour tomorrow morning. Final checks, plug everything in, just make sure it all works. We'll be in the air. Happy days. So for myself, Matt, thank you ever so much for joining me for this episode. I 100% hope that you've enjoyed this. I know we haven't got to the completed build for this. We do have a little bit longer to go, but frankly, I'm shattered and I need to go to bed. I will pick up this in the morning. It's dead simple. 2 screws to get that attached, couple of servo connections, all dead straightforwards. And like I said, I will run through before the maiden, maybe in an RC coffee morning. I will go through and show you all the things which I've been and done just to get her over the line. And then we're going to take her out and give her a damn good ragging. Brilliant. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, hit the thumbs up underneath. Any comments, any questions, please just ask. I think I must be one of the only YouTubers out there on the entire internet who actually bought one of these out of his own money and has made a build video for it. So if you were able to pick up so many tips from this episode, I sincerely hope that it has been and helped you. Maybe not with the micro Skyhunter, maybe a different model. So with that said, from myself, Matt, thank you ever so much for taking the time to watch this episode. And on that note, cheerios!